Hello everybody. First things, people have asked me if I could do some translations of the things I do on my homepage, and that's not possible because I just don't have the time to translate everything. But I came up with the idea of doing the videos in English maybe, and so that everybody who doesn't understand German can just watch the video as long as he understands English. And keep the homepage in German so that if you don't understand English, you can read what this thing is about in German on the homepage. And you know, just watch the videos in English on my YouTube channel. If you guys like this, just let me know in the description. Leave a post down below and tell me what you think about it. This is a small video. I got this for an upcoming project. This is a Volkswagen media interface. Nothing special, most of you might know it. And what I want to do with it, I will show you later. But I open it up. That's usually the first thing I do when I get some electronic devices, especially car devices. And yeah, there's nothing special in here. We have a microcontroller, MB90F, whatever. This is the CAN interface, so this guide us usually everything that has to do with CAN communication. There's a EEPROM right next to it. This is 24C60 or 160 WP. Standard thing, there's the part number in it and flash information and whatever. Then you have a ARM processor right here, which might be the one taking care of the audio and everything interface. There is a 8 megabyte, that's 64 megabit flash, which the ARM uses as its RAM, and maybe a small microcontroller. I haven't yet figured out what it is. It is Atmel, like every microcontroller in here, except for this one. Might be a microcontroller, might be a EEPROM, but it doesn't really look like an EEPROM because it's too big. It looks like an ATtiny, but the part number's sort of screwed up. I can tell you what this is. So anyway, I looked over the PCB and there are some standard things. This might be a programming port right here. I don't know. Might be, might be not. And then I noticed something in the front side. So this is the front. This is where you plug your media in cable in. You know, you got these small cables right here. Let's just call this the media in multi-port or whatever. And they Volkswagen sells these cables from multi-port to whatever you want. This is a standard USB cable, and they are pretty expensive. I think the Volkswagen dealer here in Germany wants to have about 30 or 35 euros for them. This is just a small cable, no electronics in it, whatever. And this is, I think, a little bit too much, but, well, you gotta have these. If you want to plug a USB stick or something in there, there's no other way. You just have to buy these cables because you don't have a USB port right in your media in device, obviously. So I took a look at the PCB and I noticed that there are footprints for parts missing, and which is nothing special. You have these on a lot of electronic devices. Sometimes there are just plugs missing for development reasons. You know, they use plugs where they have SPI and I2C and whatever to just check during development, and when the development is finished, they remove these in the final phase. You can see these here. This might be test probe for different things they want to check. But this doesn't look like a development thing. This looks like somebody planned to do a plug here, to have a plug right here and there, and they just left it away when they finally produced it. And so I kept thinking what might be missing here. And the footprint, I'm trying to get a little closer here. The footprint, I have never seen the footprint actually. This of course obviously is a 4-pinner, so you have 4 pins right here. The outer 4 big holes are maybe ground and or just you know, to keep the plug in place like the ones here do. They just hold the plug. If you look at the back right here, you can see that the outer four, let me just get something to show you, they are actually connected to ground, nothing special. This is the usual stuff. And there is one pin number, let's say this is pin 1, 2, 3, 4, then this is pin 4, which is also connected to ground. So so we're looking for a plug that has 4 pins, 4 connections. 1 is ground, 3 we don't know yet, but if you look at from the front side, whoops, then you can clearly see there's a relatively thick line on the PCB going through pin number 1. And the fact that there's a big capacitor here and there's a big capacitor here, this looks like VCC, so this looks like power for something. So okay, I was looking for a plug that might be missing here that has power, most likely 5 volts, because the entire logic here is 5 volts. Most likely 2 data lines of some kind and 1 ground pin. So what might that be, and what might sense in this situation? So I came up with the idea, maybe there's a USB plug missing here. Maybe this is supposed to be a USB plug, so you can plug your USB devices directly into the media in. But I personally have never seen a footprint like this leading to a USB plug. I couldn't really figure out. And there's another thing that I saw. There are almost no parts missing right here. So usually if the guys who decide to leave this plug away, they because maybe they don't want to sell that money or whatever, they leave all the parts leading to this plug also because they are not needed. But in this case, almost all the plugs are there. You can see this, there are almost no parts missing. And so I thought, why is that? Why are they leaving the parts but take away the plug? So I came up with the idea, maybe, let's just say this is USB. This is, I haven't looked at this chip right there, but I'm just making a wild guess. Maybe this is USB, maybe this is some kind of USB controller, voltage controller, whatever. And they need this and can't take it away because the USB D plus and D minus, if it were USB, the USB data lines have to be here in this multi-port too. And maybe if this is USB, the multi-port and the USB port is just switched in parallel, and so that you can plug your USB cable in right there and use your USB port. So in this case, if this were USB, you couldn't take away the parts because you need them for the USB enhancement of this multi-port. Well, so I surfed the internet, looked for a USB plug, and first of all, I didn't find any the first time. And what's also really awkward is that, let's just pretend, and that's what I always saw, that the USB port should be facing this way. So if you have the housing and put in the PCB, that would mean that you have a USB port looking basically now right looking at you. But the footprint is too close to the edge of the PCB to be a USB port looking in this direction, because if you want the USB plug to be ending with the housing, it has to at least stand about 1.5 centimeters into the case, and the footprint is just too close to the edge. That's first thing I saw. And the second thing is, there are cars, for example Golf or Touran, that have this media in located under the armrest in the middle of the car and standing upwards. So you have the car right here. This is the armrest. Let's pretend this is the armrest. It's closed, and now you can plug in your multi-cable like this. There's nothing that prevents you from putting the armrest down. And then let's say you want to listen to music from a USB stick. You you open the armrest, then you plug in your USB stick, and then you can't close the armrest anymore because it's just in the way. So I came up with the idea maybe this USB stick is not supposed to go this way, but rather this way. And suddenly I found a USB plug on the internet which looks like this. This can be bought from about 20 euro cents to up to 6 euros actually, depending on the shop you buy. And this is exactly what I was looking for. Let me show you. We have 4 pins. I checked the pin layout, and the pin layout is actually exactly what we need. We have VCC on the first pin. Let's get my pliers. VCC on the first pin. We have D plus and D minus. I don't know if it's D plus and D minus or D minus and D plus, whatever. It's the data pins in the middle. And then you have ground. And that actually makes sense with the PCB. So if I plug this in right here, if I just stick this to the PCB, you have a perfect USB port. The length of the USB port is perfect. The footprint is perfect. Actually, everything fits as it should. And there's another thing which makes this this kind of thing genius, to have it facing at the multi-port. Because let's just say, you know, if you develop something like this, you always have to think about what people do with it. And if you have a USB port looking this way, and let's just pretend that my idea is right, that these USB pins right here, that the data pins are in parallel to the data pins in this multi-port, then what happens if a customer, let's just pretend this is the USB stick, USB port, plugs in his or her USB stick and then plugs in the multi-cable and plugs in another USB stick right here. That would mean that you have 2 USB devices plugged into basically the same USB port, basically sitting on the same data bus lines. And that would mean that there would be data corruption for sure. At least it wouldn't work. So you need to have something that prevents people from plugging in 2 USB devices at once. Now, if you have the USB port looking like this, the moment you plug in a USB stick, let's say we plug in my USB stick, the multi-port is totally blocked. There's no way for me to now get another plug in here. And the moment I am using the multi-port to plug in my USB stick, I have no chance of putting any normal USB stick in there. So I am really guessing that this is supposed to be a USB plug which has gone missing during production or some stage, maybe because they just don't want to you know, they don't want to buy these things because they are, maybe for them they maybe are 10 cents or whatever, but that's yeah, that's 10 cents you don't have to pay if you just leave it away, because there's USB in here and you want people to buy these cables. And if you sell these cables for 30 euros, basically you have 2 things that makes you happy. You sell these cables for 30 euros and you don't have to put these USB plugs on your PCB for 20 or 10 or whatever cents. So this is the way to go. And I think this happened at some stage of the production or at some stage of quality control or whatever. And now let's just see what happens if I resolder a USB plug in here. And of course you have to make a small hole in the housing to make it fit in there. And if this actually worked, let's just see. Maybe we got some small resistors or whatever missing here, but we'll see that. And yeah, let me just solder this back in and see what happens. So here we are. The PCB has the USB port in it. I have made a small hole in both the top and the bottom of the case. So now you can just put the PCB back in here. It fits good enough to be working. And there you go. This is your new USB port. And it, at least on my bench, it works. So now let's put this back in the car and see if the electronics actually work. And yeah, let's just go down. So I'm back from the car, and it turns out there's actually something missing on the PCB, and I haven't figured out. It's not a part that's missing. It's some kind of connection, but you can activate the USB port with a small tweak. I got the first wire already connected. You have to connect 2 wires. The first one goes from the second pin from the bottom here to this hole. I'm gonna upload some pictures on my homepage so you can see this better. And this is a little bit tricky, not on this side, this is fairly easy, but this can be a little bit tricky. So what I'm gonna do is I did myself 2 of those small wires. This one is just usual, and you can see that the wire actually consists of different strings in here. Let me get this camera can focus. And on the other hand, I just took one of those strings, very tiny, and then I cut off the others. So what we're going to do now is we're going to solder the big end. Let's call this big end. Just give me a second. We're going to solder this big end to, alright, I hopefully can manage this under the camera because it's very close, right? This end here, this is the data line, and what you're gonna do now is you try to put the other side through the hole in the PCB. Let me do this off camera real quick so you guys can see that. Like this. You just push it through the pinhole. There you see it, very tiny, so that it comes out at the other side, because turns out this is actually USB transceiver. This, and it comes out of this small hole right here. You can barely see it. And now what we're going to do is just put a little bit of solder down there. I'm just going to do this off camera. Like this. I just put a little tiny bit of solder. Where is it? On both sides, and so you basically have a connection right here. And now you are good to go. You can't see much from this side actually, but you can see it from this side. And if you are worried, like I am, that this might go off over time, you can put a little bit of glue on here and everything should be fine. So I'm back in the car. I had to unscrew the glove box. You guys can see that right now probably. It's lying down there. Just took the cable that usually goes to the media in, which is installed in this car, and took it out and plugged in my own modified media in. And right now the media in is not working. There's nothing plugged in, neither the multi-port nor the USB. Now I'm gonna take my USB stick here, and then we try to plug this in. This is a little bit tricky with one hand. So there you go. First thing you notice, it blinks. Something's happening here. And once the media has been searched, the media in, it's shown on my radio and everything works just like it should. There you go. You got your own small USB port built right into the media in. You can now build this back into your glove box, or if you have a Touran, Golf, whatever, you can put this back where it belongs, and you don't need any stinking cables anymore. You can just plug in your USB stick like it was intended by the guy who designed the PCB, by the guys who invented the media in, and you don't need to buy those expensive Volkswagen cables anymore. So if you guys like this again, and you guys like the video in English actually, then you just let me know, leave a comment down below, and we'll see, maybe we can do that in the future a little bit often. And to everybody who doesn't understand me right now, who only speaks German, probably doesn't understand this either, but I'm gonna write this in German, and I'm gonna put some close-up pictures of the PCB on my homepage, at least the part that is important for this, and so that you can look exactly what I did. And yeah, there you have it. Have fun with it, spread it to the world, and see you next time.